All right, so it tells us the secant is 3. All right, secant is reciprocal of which one? Which one? Cosine, yeah, thanks. Now, we're used to seeing fractions, right? So how can I make 3 a fraction? Just put it over 1, okay? So, first thing I would do is that. Okay, it also tells us the sign is negative, right? Less than 0 means negative. And sign, which one is it? Is it the y or the x value? It's the y value, right? Remember? Cosine alphabet, right? Cosine sine xy, right? So the sign is the y value. So this is telling me, this part is telling me, well, my y is a negative number. Okay? So thinking about my quadrants, my picture, it's either the third or the fourth quadrant where the y's are negative, right? So secant is reciprocal of cosine, right? So, and it's positive, and the y has to be negative. And secant is so that's the x over r, right? So that's r over x. Okay? So where should I put this? If my secant is positive and my y has to be negative, is it the fourth? Because secant, remember, is reciprocal of cosine. Yeah, so it's still my x, right? Which quadrant we in? We in 3 or 4? Why is it 4?
Yeah.
The x is positive and the y is negative. Okay? Let's draw a different color here. So it's going to be out here. Remember, our right angle is always here on the x. We go from the hypotenuse, the origin, to there. So my theta is back here, my reference angle. Okay? So my x value is 1, my r is 3. So how do I find this? Pythagorean. Now remember, this is the c, right? So it's, 1 squared plus y squared equals, or a squared plus b, you can use a, b, and c, or x, y, and r, right? That's what we've changed it to x, y, and r this week. But it's still this Pythagorean theorem. So I got 1 plus y squared equals 9, y squared equals 8, so y equals the square root of 8, right? Well, remember, that's 4 times 2. We should simplify. So it's 2 radical 2. But since it's the y's down, that's a negative, remember. So there's my picture. Okay? That makes sense. Any questions? So now I answer the question. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. Okay, so that would be negative 2 radical 2 over 1, which is negative 2 radical 2. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so cosecant would be hypotenuse over opposite. So 3 over negative 2 radical 2. So then we got to rationalize. So that's 3 radical 2 over, what does this become? The radical 2 times the radical 2? 2. But it's a negative 2 times that, so that's a negative 4. Okay? So draw your picture and then just use your SOHCAHTOA stuff. That's the type of problem we were working on yesterday, using that reference angle. The reference angle, again, is always back here, inside the triangle, back by the origin. Okay? If you understand this problem, you should understand everything else. Is there a question? These are the toughest type. Try to figure out where to draw your picture. Once you get your picture, then it's pretty easy. So the picture is the key, Jacob. Okay? So again, if you get a whole number for an answer here, just put it over 1 for the fraction part, so you've got 2 sides of your triangle. Then use Pythagorean to find our third side. Okay? All right, so answers to homework. Number 24 was quadrant 4, where the sine is negative and the cosine is positive. Cosine is the x, sine is the y, positive x, negative y, fourth quadrant. 28 is a problem like that. The cotangent was -1. We're in theta is between 90 and 180. Remember, this is 90, this is 180, so your picture would have been in the second quadrant. And then you're supposed to find the cosine, which is negative radical 2 over 2. Again, finding the exact value, right? The fraction and radicals, that's exact value stuff. Not the decimal. I saw a lot of decimal answers for some of you on your homework. Okay, that's not going to be acceptable on the quiz Friday. 32, same type of problem. And said your sine, your x was negative, and your tangent was positive, so you've been in the third quadrant, and the cosine is negative radical 2 over 2. The 36, gave you the secant, and the sine was negative, and the cotangent comes out to be negative the square root of 3. Any of those you'd like me to do? Those are like this type of problem here. No? Getting them all right, Workman?
Mostly.
Yeah, mostly. Huh? Why don't you quit looking at that phone for a little bit? All right, find and measure the reference angles. So we're at 3640. When you're in the first quadrant, the reference angle is the same, so that's 48 degrees. For 44, 18 pi over 7. All right? I would figure out how many degrees that is. All right? So go 18 times 180 and divide by 7. Eighteen times 180 divided by 7. 462. Did I copy that right? That doesn't seem right. Must be. Do that again. 18 times 180 divided by 7. All right. Okay. So 462. All right. So if I'm thinking about where this is, 1 times around is 360, right? Plus 90 is 450, so 462 is over here. Okay? So I'm going to subtract 360 from it. And that'll give me between between, you know, the 90 and the 180. So it's over 90, so I'm gonna go 180 minus that answer. All right? And then I'm gonna multiply that, whatever it was, 77 point whatever, change it back so it'll be times pi over 180. All right? So I'm just going to divide that by 180 and put pi in my numerator. So this answer divided by 180 is that. That is not right. What is going on? Yeah, I know, but still it should come out to a fraction. Okay? So if I subtract, let's do it this way. Let me do it this way. All right. So, you know, that's bigger than 2 pi, right? So I'm going to subtract 2 pi from it. I subtracted 360, right? Remember, 2 pi and 360 are the same. 2 pi over 1 is 14 pi over 7, right? Multiply by 7, both of them. So I'm going to subtract 14 pi over 7 to get it to be smaller, which would be 4 pi over 7, right? Okay, and I know that I have to, you know, I did the picture. It went around to about there. Okay, that 18 pi over 7. So when I subtract the 360 for it, or the 2 pi from it, that brings me there. That's the same angle. Those are the same spots. And I got to subtract that from 180, or in this case, pi. All right? So pi over 1 equals 7 pi over 7, right? Multiply both by 7. So I could go 7 pi over 7 minus 4 pi over 7 to get the reference angle, which is 3 pi over 7. I was hoping when I did the decimal stuff it would have worked back, but it wasn't working out for some reason. So that was the answer to 44. 48, negative 650. There's a picture of it. All right. So negative, remember, is clockwise. So, you know, you go 360 and then 180 and 360. What is that? 180 and, or 360 and 270. What is that? That's 630. Okay. So I got to go another. So from here to there is negative 630. I got to go 20 more that way to get to negative 650. So this part in here would have been 70 degrees to get the rest of it. The 20 there, and then there's 70. So the answer, that's supposed to be 70. It's kind of hard to see. But the reference angle is 70 degrees because it's in the first quadrant. So those were kind of tricky, those last couple. Questions so far? All right, so number 52 says, use the reference angle theorem to find the exact value. So the secant of 150, so I got it right here. All right, 150 is from here to here. So my reference angle is 30, okay? And I can do my 30, 60, 90 picture. Opposite the 30 is always 1, opposite the 60 is the square root of 3. Since I'm in the second quadrant, that's a negative the square root of 3. And my hypotenuse is 2. All right, so secant is the reciprocal of cosine. All right, cosine is negative radical 3 over 2. So the reciprocal is 2 over negative radical 3. And then radical 3 over radical 3 to rationalize it. That's the exact value of the secant of 150. Okay. 56 is negative the square root of 3. 60 is negative the square root of 3 over 2. Anybody need to see either one of those? I will do it just like that. I don't know if I have those here or not. There's 56. So that's negative 60 degrees. Remember, negative is this direction, clockwise. So the 60 is there. There's my 30. So there's my 1. My radical 3 is negative because it's down, and there's my 2. And then I'm doing tangent, which is opposite over, or adjacent, which is negative radical 3 over 1. Okay, so draw your picture, and you can figure it out. Questions? You guys are awful quiet. Okay. For 64, you can just put it in your calculator. Now they're doing cotangent. Okay? It's on this side. Well, there's 60 done. You want to look at that. Okay? Here's 64 and 68. Cotangent, remember, is 1 over the tangent. So just make sure you're in degree mode, which I am, and you can just do 1 over the tangent of 398 for cotangent. And it said to go to 4 decimal places, I think. Oh, 6. So you got to go up to 6 decimal places. All right, so 1.279942, because it's a 6 after the 1. I guess you can count the 1 as one of it. So you don't have to go 6 decimal, just 6 numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 for the 6th one. Okay. For 68, it was cosine, you just put it in. You just have to change it to radian mode. Okay, so hit your mode button, go down, change it, and then go back and do cosine, and there is a 3 pi. Pi is right above your caret button, divided by 7. And then it's those 6 numbers, 0.22252, we go to 1. All right, 72, cosecant is 1 over the sine. It's 0.34, so keep it in radians. All right, so you do 1 over the sine of 0.34. 1 divided by sine 0.34. 2.99862. Okay? Questions? You won't have any of those on the quiz, though. I didn't give you anything like that. All right. Then you have a couple, like, well, not a couple, but one on the quiz, like 76 and 80. All right. Let's go ahead and look at 80. Maybe I have it here. I don't know. Or I have them both, actually. All right, so here's 76. Okay. I figured out it was 315 degrees and 330. All right. So the 330 is this picture, 30, 60, 90. The 315, I don't know where my picture is for the 315. Let's draw it. 315 would be in the 4th quadrant. And it's a 45. 45. So that's a negative 1 because it's down. That's a positive 1. And that's a positive radical 2 because our hypotenuse is always positive. Okay, so the 180 cosine is adjacent x over r, hypotenuse r, 1. So negative 1 over 1 is that. The sine of this is opposite, negative 1 over the square root of 2. which is -1 times a -1 makes it positive. So that's where that came from. And then this answer, tangent is opposite over adjacent. So that's where the radical 3/3 came, minus negative. So I changed it to sixths. So I had to multiply this by 3. That's where the 3 radical 2 came from. Minus the negatives, addition. Had to multiply 3 by 2 to make it sixths. So I multiplied 2 times square root of 3. That's the exact answer. Again, some of you are giving me decimal answers. And then there's 80. A lot of you got that one right. I don't know if you slated it or you actually did it right. Okay. So 7 pi over 4 came out to be 315. I think we did it in this one too, right? Yeah. 315, that's the same picture. 1, -1, radical 2. So the tangent is -1 squared, makes it +1. The secant, again, reciprocal of cosine, so it's radical 2 over 1, which is radical 2 when I square it, is a regular 2. Square this is 1, 1 minus 2, -1. Again, exact answers. No calculator needed. Except, I guess, when you change it to, use your calculator to change 7 times 180 divided by 4 to 315. So you got to think a little bit this week, which you haven't been doing, Beard, and some of you others haven't been doing. Okay? So, again, these have been a little bit more difficult than what you'll see on your practice quiz and quiz. You know, there's more of them, I guess, why it was a little more difficult. You don't have that many problems, but you do have problems like the last two there. You have a problem like that. You have a couple problems like drawing the picture like we did Monday, where I gave you a point and find the 6 trig functions, and one like the warm-up today. Okay, so draw your pictures and then show your work. There's only 5 problems, so it's not going to take you that long.